Welcome back to another edition of the Water Matters podcast. I'm Matthew Rolfe, one of the hosts of the Water Matters podcast. This episode is airing over Easter, so first of all, happy Easter. If you're listening in real time or close to the release date. A bit of a different episode, this one. I've been looking back through the archives, looking back through some of the email newsletters that we share as part of the watermatters.life subscriber base, and the articles that go to our readers on a fortnightly basis, plus the podcast episodes that also go out on a fortnightly basis every other Friday. And what caught my attention just recently was episode 12 of the Water Matters podcast from the end of April 2025. And one of the benefits of the Water Matters platform, watermatters.life, the reason, one of the sort of side benefits as to why we are enjoying documenting this updates from a sustainable water management perspective is that we get to look back and see what was happening when, and plot a trend as to what's going on in the world of water management, what's happening in terms of changes in climate, weather, and it's quite interesting actually looking back to see just how different months of the year are from year to year. And so I was taken aback by quite a few things that we shared in episode 12 of the Water Matters podcast, especially given that it was only a year ago. And there are so many things that were talked about in that episode that feel quite alien to the situation right now. It feels like a completely different time. And so I'm going to share, for those of you watching, you'll see most of episode 12 of the podcast, and those listening, you'll hear it. We've cut out the bits that are not as relevant, but I think, like me, you'll be surprised as to some of the things going on in the world of sort of water management back then, what was going on in the climate and the weather, and different things happening in the sort of relation to water bills and smart water meters, and lots of stuff that was happening in April 2025, which I certainly found an interesting or a helpful sort of reminder. I think you will too. So I'm going to press play on that now. Enjoy listening to episode 12 or the relevant parts of it, and then I'm coming back at the end just to highlight a few bits and really share a few insights from my perspective on why I think this is particularly relevant and helpful as we continue to document what's going on in the world of sustainable water management. So here's some clips from episode 12 of the Water Matters podcast from 1 year ago. This episode is, as we sit here on the last day of April, we're going to recap over what's gone on in the world of sustainable water management, or really just water in general, in April, because a lot has been happening. But one of the things that has not been happening, which it feels very relevant to talk about, is it's not been raining.
No, not at all.
Not been raining at all. Everyone is enjoying the beautiful, beautiful sunshine that we have been blessed with in the majority of the UK over the last few weeks, particularly this week. It is roasting out there. We're making the most of our air conditioning in here. And so hopefully ahead of, well, by the time we're listening to this, it's going to be a bank holiday weekend. So presumably it will have started raining because it has to rain on bank holidays in the UK. Yeah. That's just how it works. But as I referred to in our fortnightly email newsletter that went out this morning, so Water Wednesdays edition number 13, unlucky for some, I'm going to read this or certainly refer to this. So if you're watching on camera, please excuse me as I hold my iPad in front of me. But I want to get the numbers right because it is quite significant how little it has rained in the UK in April. So nationally, rainfall has been significantly below average, with only 27.2 millimetres recorded compared to the typical 71 millimetres for the month of April. So I'm sure you will all have expected April showers because that is what is supposed to happen in April. From that, you can see typically 71 mil of rain is what we expect for a month of April. And it's been 27.2, so that's insane. London in particular received just 19 millimetres of rain, approximately 45% of its usual April total. Scotland, where our branch as in Graph UK branch in Glasgow regularly don't get there very often, but regularly look at the cameras in our yard and warehouse operations up in Glasgow. And so even up there, the sun has been out, the rain has not been falling. Scotland has also faced similar conditions, recording only 32.9 millimetres of rainfall so far, prompting SEPA, the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, to place parts of the country on alert for water scarcity due to extremely low river levels. So it's significant. It's like normally a month where we're all sort of, enjoying that spring is coming, and sometimes, yes, the sun is shining, but we expect a lot of rain in April, and it just hasn't come. And I think that's amazing, just to sort of refer back to that. It highlights the difference, doesn't it? That in Scotland, they've not had very much at 32.9 millimetres. London has had 19. Like, the difference in those two alone,
staggering. Yeah,
it's a massive, isn't it? It's just it's certainly, when you hear those two numbers together, it really does highlight the difference that in rainfall levels across the UK.
But what also scared me with that is the fact that Scotland had to be put on alert for wildfires, which is incredibly significant, because when you think about earlier this year, we saw the bushfires in LA, in California.
Yep.
Australia, we've seen them over a number of years now. And when you think of them, you're thinking of really dry, really hot places like the west coast of America.
Yep.
You get there in Australia, really dry, arid places. But to think Scotland is on alert for bushfires is mental to think about. And when you think about it, even last year, we had one of the wettest Marches and Aprils on record. Like, it was raining significantly much we didn't think it was going to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now seeing, in back-to-back years, one of the wettest months on record within a year to one of the driest on record. Like, we are seeing much more extreme weather conditions, and no one is really thinking about it.
No, indeed, and I think that is a key takeaway at the moment. Is I try to stay away from the news as much as possible, but I do speak to people, and certainly just had a meeting this morning with people that are much more tuned into the news than I am. And one of them referred to the fact that they have not read anything yet about hosepipe bans or likelihood of drought and all that sort of stuff, which must be coming pretty soon down the road. Like, especially in the southeast, where it's they've, as I just said, 45% of the typical April rainfall. Only 45% has come. So, like, it's and also I'm just remembering, we were at an installation of a rainwater harvesting system at a customer of ours in Kent only a few weeks ago, and I remember him saying on this video that we created, for the last 4 years he's had a hosepipe ban. And to your point, this time last year was incredibly wet. So it's gonna come. It's almost bound to come. But I don't think anyone is reading about it at the moment or seeing about it on the news. And such is sort of how little water is talked about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it's not only Kent. I know Devon and Cornwall are all constantly in hosepipe bans, even though it's kind of not reflected in national news. I think they're parts of the country are still considered in droughts from how the reservoirs are so low. This was even the case, I think, last year. They saw so much rainfall, yet they were still considered in droughts because the reservoirs hadn't been topped up and high enough. And I'm trying to think back. I think it was summer of 2022 when we had a crazy heat wave and there was hosepipe bans. I think that was the last one. And I don't think our reservoirs have recovered since then. So I believe it is coming. It surely has to come.
No, absolutely, and let's see how long it'll be before it is in the news and people are talking about it. And it's interesting, and this the fortnightly newsletter, which hopefully everyone is subscribed to. If you're not, go to watermatters.life. All you got to do is put in your email address, and then you'll receive an email every other Wednesday. So Water Wednesdays, with a recap really of what's happening right now, real time in the world of water management, and links to articles that we've shared on the watermatters.life website there. And there's new content being uploaded at least every other day. Lots of interesting water-related news and articles that if you're interested in this podcast, you will absolutely find some content on there that will interest you. But the benefit of doing this as often as we are and releasing that every 2 weeks and these podcasts every 2 weeks is we are focused on, the weather patterns and how much it is raining and these dry periods. Like, we remember it from last year because we remember how many of our customers were saying, well, we can't put these tanks in the ground right now. It's just too wet.
Yeah.
And therefore we remember how much of our sales teams were saying, well, the sales will come, which is, blaming the environment.
Yep.
And of course it did come. And it was very true. It was incredibly wet and it did have an impact on construction and the amount of, it does affect productivity. Of course it does. This year it's the exact opposite, like you say. And actually the ground is too hard for a few things. We've just been talking this morning about a potential article for the watermatters.life website where we might actually refer to events around the UK that have been either postponed or cancelled because of the dry ground. Like, so that I've heard at the weekend, there's a few point-to-points, horse racing meets that are not happening because the ground is literally too hard. So they're not going to take place over these bank holiday weekends, which is when a lot of point-to-points do happen. And that just seems so strange to me that events in the UK in April are being cancelled because the ground is too hard.
Well, I nearly had a Sunday League football game called off for the exact same reason. Because the ref come up and said, funnily enough, in winter, when the ground's this hard, when it's frozen over, you can't play.
Yeah.
Yet when it's dry in the summer, you can play, even though the actual ground is still as hard.
Yeah. No, it's mad. It's true. And I think, that's why we're talking about it, because I think it could be quite interesting to do a bit of research into what events are impacted or called off, postponed, whatever, because of the dry weather instead of our normal reason, which is wet weather. So that's, interesting and sort of meaningful in itself. It's been a very, very sort of unusual April from a rainfall perspective. But there's also been a lot happening in April in terms of water stuff in general, water matters. Price rises was something that we wrote about on the in one of our fortnightly email newsletters for sure. And I know there was an article about it on the Water Matters website, because this month in April, households in England and Wales will have all received an increase.
Yes, so this was reported in a lot of publications that a lot of households around the UK will face price rises. I think it's only a short rise this year, around about 13 to 15%. But over the next 5 years, they could increase to up to 35, 36%. And I think it's mainly a lot of water companies in the south region of the country where you'll likely see higher increases. So I think South West Water and Thames Water, I think Thames Water were looking for 35% increase, with South West looking at 26%. So kind of what we were saying earlier in terms of those areas of the country that are affected the most are seeing the highest rise in price increases.
Yeah, and I think certainly it's one thing that it is leading to a bit more of, and I've been talking to a couple of people that have recently had water meters fitted in at their homes. Didn't have water meters before, just had this set charge. This is in the Thames Water area, the particular one I'm thinking about, and realised actually they're paying like nearly £90 a month for water, not a big user of water, and suddenly thinking, hang on a minute, £89 a month every month for water, that's now a cost that I need to think about. And so this person I'm thinking about got a water meter fitted, which of course you can do just by asking your water authority to get one installed. It's all done free of charge, as I understand it. So got a water meter fitted and is now paying £33 a month.
Wow.
So from £89 a month without one, now it's reduced to £33 a month. Haven't changed their water usage at all. No. But that's just the difference of, paying an accurate amount for the amount you use rather than just this set sort of unmetered bill. So I think because of these rises, yes, some people surely are now a little bit more tuned into it, feeling the pinch a bit more in terms of what they're actually paying. So that is one thing that can be considered if you don't have a water meter. But it is interesting that, or certainly will be interesting, as we've talked about on previous episodes, how much more water will be considered or kind of added to this discussion about utility bills.
Yeah, because I know Water UK, actually, this was in, again, this month, are levying for more water meters because they want to change the pricing model of fixed rates to basically pay what you use. And it's interesting in that case, what you're saying, it's like they're saving around 50 to £60 a month. If you look at it over the course of the year, they're going to save between £500 and £600 a year. So with, like we've said before, utility bills, cost of living crisis, if people do move on to meters, they could see their actual water bill come down by quite a significant amount. And in particular, the story I read was there's receiving a lot of pushback from avid gardeners because they do use a lot of water. They obviously pay flat rates, but if they're using a lot of water to water their garden, they could be hit by some pretty significant water bills, unless they do install a water butt, which is probably the easiest way for them to save water and use for their garden.
No, absolutely. And of course, it's all linked because people will, we know just from our own team here and the people that we talk to or have been talking to recently, people are now back out in their gardens.
Yep.
They care about their gardens again now because the sun's out and you can, get out there and enjoy your garden. And of course, if it's not raining at the same time, which it hasn't been, then naturally you're using mains water on that garden and watering your plants, watering your lawn, because it's not green otherwise. And so one thing leads to another, and suddenly we're using more mains water for that.
Well, this is the first time ever I have really paid attention to our garden at the house I live in, me and my fiance's, and we somehow spent nearly 300 quid at B&M on plants and stuff. You're laughing because, like, how can you spend that much at B&M? But now, is because I've made such a significant investment, I am more conscious about making sure I water them rather than letting them die.
Absolutely. Well, and that makes perfect sense. But your only option right now is to use mains water for that.
Exactly. Yeah. That is the only option at the moment to keep them alive. But I'm very conscious that I'm using mains water all the time to water my plants.
Well, lucky for you, there's a bank holiday Monday coming up, so surely it's going to rain. But let's see. No, so I think it's very, very interesting, and it will, as more rises do come, and there's an article on our watermatters.live website about improvements in water meters as well, smart water meters, which are sort of kind of improving the accuracy of how much water is used, real-time water usage, even to the hour, kind of, not just weekly or monthly or whatever. So it's going in that direction, and so I think that's a good thing from the perspective of the user, paying for what you've got, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it's the case that's gone the way with electricity and gas and other utility bills. They pay for kind of what they use. A lot of homes now have smart readers for electricity. I think you can get smart readers for gas, but you do have to submit a meter reading for your gas anyway, so you are charged for what you use. So I think it's only the case that water will come that way very time soon.
Yes, so check out that article on the website for further information on these improvements in water meters, and perhaps if you haven't got one, something to think about, because if you're noticing that you're paying more for your water, then the first thing to do is make sure you are only paying for the water that you're actually using.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, it's free to fit. All you got to do is contact your local water company. And even if you probably will save money by checking out how much you're using, but it should also teach you some good water saving habits because you're more conscious of it.
Absolutely. Another significant sort of event that's taken place this past month that we have actually not shared too much information about on the Water Matters platform, but we have a bit within Graph UK and our email newsletter to our community within Graph is the Great UK Water Blitz.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that, Callum.
So this is an initiative we found last year. We come across it. And what they do is they encourage the public to go out and test their local waterways. So any local lakes, rivers, streams, to test the quality of them. So I believe it's free to register. All you have to do is just apply and you get sent a free testing kit. And it's basically an initiative to find out the current state of UK waterways. So what you do is you'll get a kit. You'll then go out to a local river, stream, lake, wherever one's local to you. You then take a water sample. You then send it back to them with the results back to the organisers as part of their research program. And so they can then publish results of what the current state of waterways are. They did one back in October. They had, I believe it was around 7,000 volunteers over 4,000 test sites. And they found that 61% of UK waterways were in poor condition. This was due to an increase in both phosphates and nitrates in waterways due to sewage pollution and agricultural runoff. And they got the latest one, which is the 26th of April, so around about now, for people to do the latest round of testing. And they're hoping to get 10,000 volunteers with 5,000 sites. So yeah, they run these, I believe, every April and every October just to keep an accurate test.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so obviously this is more, well, also going to be in relation to the sort of sewage scandal and all that sort of stuff, in terms of the poor quality of our rivers and the purely rivers, or is it sort of the
rivers, streams, and lakes? It's not so much seas because it's hard to really get an accurate test for such a large volume of water. But yeah, to your point, it's not so much about people's habits in terms of kind of saving and what they could do, but it's to help lobby the issue, which is the current water quality.
Yeah, so it's an event that I remember from the website. There's many sponsors, but I'm sure the sort of Rivers Trust is one of them, because it's more about the quality of the waterways, rivers in particular, and then the environment sort of and species and all the sort of animal life with
it is
plant life, I'm sure.
Yes.
Which of course relates a bit to an episode that we recorded before, which hopefully listeners have listened to, about nutrient neutrality and the impact of phosphates and nitrates in wastewater, or sort of getting into the water course, and how that is a big issue holding up a lot of planning applications for new homes and that sort of stuff. It's sort of overlaps to that subject, doesn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's all linked to that. So the main two contributors to higher phosphates and nitrates in waterways is agricultural runoff. So these are the use of fertilizers or chemical fertilizers. And then you have sewage pollution. So this is obviously sewage leaks. This is pollution from outdated septic tanks, and general sewage finding its way into our waterways. So one aspect we pointed out back on the nutrient neutrality episode was the use of septic tank upgrade schemes. So this is taking outdated septic tanks and upgrading them to sewage treatment plants to drastically reduce the use of to drastically reduce phosphates and nitrates coming out the back of these septic tanks that then are discharged into watercourses. But it's also these septic tanks then discharged to groundwater as well.
Yeah, so just for anyone that is interested, because we, certainly in the last twice this has been done, we've kind of remembered it too late to actually get involved and get the kit and be one of the volunteers that sort of actually takes part in the event. So now would be the perfect time if anyone is keen to get involved. The website is earthwatch.org.uk. So earthwatch.org.uk. And there is a opportunity on the homepage there to express your interest in getting involved in the autumn 2025 Great UK Water Blitz, which will be in September 2025. So you've just got to fill in your name and email on the website there, because that's, it's interesting in itself, but then you'll be able to find out sort of the rivers, near to you. You'd be able to learn about what the state of them, what sort of things that either your children might be playing in, or you might want to be swimming in. I know that the state of the rivers, sort of, people are put off that massively now, but it's only going to change by people doing something about it and getting involved and getting this data. And so it is a really good event from that perspective. And as Callum referred to, there are sort of thousands of people across the UK do get involved in it, and it says, as it says on the page here, we need this data so that we can take action to restore our rivers and freshwater systems. If it is something sort of meaningful and significant to you, then get involved. And there's a full report from the September 2024 Water Blitz, which can be downloaded, and also the results from the June 2024 Water Blitz as well. So you can go and see, and you can find out. I think I'm sure that you can find out sort of local to you what the stats are like, and so it's something that everyone.
Yeah, so in that we'll show you your local. If it has been tested, it will show the results for your local area. But if it isn't, then it's a perfect case for you to sign up and do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, April, other things. I'm just trying to recap, make sure that we have covered the key things that took place in the month of April from a Water Matters perspective.
Well, linking quite nicely into actual sewage pollution into waterways, the other thing I read was that there's been more of a crackdown in terms of company execs that are responsible for causing sewage spills. So I believe now it's up to 2-year imprisonment if the execs are proven to potentially cover up or lie about any sewage leaks that are happening in waterways, which is quite significant because that's been covered a lot over the past 18 months to 2 years by the amount of sewage spills. So it now seems that there's going to be more legislation in place for actual imprisonment of those in charge and responsible for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, increasing the consequences like that will sharpen the focus on preventing it and doing something about it. And so clearly that has to be a good thing from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I read, like you kind of talk about focus, is with the increases in water prices, they want to improve infrastructure of kind of waterways, so sewer networks. And I think an independent body found of what they've currently taken so far in terms of price rises to investment infrastructure, only 1% of infrastructure has actually been improved and updated. So it makes you think, what are they actually spending the improvements on?
No, absolutely. And that also does link to another useful article which Sean added to the watermatters.life website, which I must admit I learned a lot from, because I had heard reference to NRW, non-revenue water, before, which I didn't know what that was, to be honest. But non-revenue water is water that has been treated and distributed but is never billed to the customers due to leaks, theft, or inaccurate metering. Mm-hmm. So it's water that has, it's as good as it gets, mains quality water that should be used for drinking and, all that sort of stuff. But it's classed as non-revenue water because it's never billed out to the customer because it's locked. It never reaches. And so there is a very interesting article on the website about that and how it's being improved. It's a focus area for water companies, and so it's not something that is just sort of it exists and it's a problem and it's just one of those things. It is something that is being focused on and looked at, but I think in the UK and then globally, it's a big issue by the sounds of it, and something that also has to be improved and looked at by the water authorities to make sure that that it gets better, because clearly water being lost, any water being lost when we are looking down a sort of roadmap of not having enough water to meet demands within the next 9 to 10 years. Stuff like this has to be dealt with because it will improve that situation.
Yeah. It's just incredible to think that there is something on their balance sheet which they just class as, it's pretty much just write-offs. Like any business just writing off lost or damaged stock, but to consider, I wonder how much of a percentage of the water that they say goes through the network is actually classed as non-revenue water.
So I believe, and I'm skimming this article, so go to this article to read it to make sure you get the correct information, but in the UK the average is around 20% according to Ofwat. So not insignificant.
No, it's all right. So a fifth of water is lost due to leaks, spills, and other areas where it doesn't actually get delivered.
Yeah, significant.
So, welcome back. Thank you for listening to that, and hopefully you found that as interesting as I did when I caught up on that episode a few days ago. I just think it's incredible just how different April 2025 was to probably what we're expecting April 2026 to be. Will it be as warm? Will it be as dry? Will there be the murmur of hosepipe bans again? Who knows? We're right at the start of the month now, so let's see. Again, one of the benefits of documenting these things through the Water Matters platform. It will be interesting to see how April 2026 does play out. But hopefully, it's not lost on you the sort of to be taken back in time and reminded of some of the things going on. That was when the first sort of big price increases were coming through from a water bill perspective, which has certainly led to more people thinking about the water bill, being conscious of their water use, and of course some of those bills are really kicking in now, and people are starting to notice what they're spending on water, and of course the changes in the weather, hosepipe bans. It's hard to believe right now that might be something coming up, although I was reading headlines this morning about the fact that even though it's rained almost non-stop for the last 4 months, we still haven't really improved our drinking water situation. So it may not be a surprise if we see sort of headlines and changes coming down the line within the next 4 weeks over water restrictions and potentially hosepipe bans. Let's see what the weather does. But very fascinating to be reminded of the situation we were in just 12 months ago. And then things like the wastewater blitz, the Great Water Blitz, with the testing of rivers and all that sort of stuff. That is an annual thing, so that will be happening again soon. And we'll certainly be looking to get involved with that and sharing news about that as we learn it, which is also fascinating to see what is going on in that area of water management as well. So hopefully an interesting episode to see the difference 1 year makes, and certainly if you've listened to this and been reminded of a few things perhaps going on in your life back then 12 months ago, let's see how April plays out in 2026, and see once again, as we continue to produce these podcasts every 2 weeks, maybe we'll use this episode to as a reminder of a few things that have gone on in April 2026 when we're here in a year's time. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe. If you are not receiving the Water Matters Water Wednesdays email newsletter that comes out every fortnight on Wednesdays, then please go to watermatters.life. You simply put your email address in there, and that will mean that you receive that on a fortnightly basis, with a reminder of these fortnightly episodes coming out on your chosen podcast platform as well. So thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with the next edition of the Water Matters podcast.